They say love conquers all, that it's the ultimate goal, the missing piece that makes life complete. But somewhere in a quiet apartment, a man sits alone by choice, not circumstance. He's successful, stable, self-aware, and he's chosen freedom over the fairy tale. Not because he's broken, but because he's done the math. And for him, the equation doesn't add up. This video is about them, the men who look at modern relationships and see not opportunity but obligation, who've weighed intimacy against autonomy and chosen the latter without apology. And the question we rarely ask honestly, what makes their minds work this way? If you find this topic intriguing already, take a second to hit like. It helps more people discover these kinds of deep conversations. Freedom isn't loneliness. It's not the absence of connection, but the presence of choice. True freedom is a psychological architecture, a way the brain prioritizes self-preservation over social conformity. Recent studies show that 63% of men between 18 and 29 are single, nearly double the rate for women in the same age group. This isn't a crisis of dateability. It's a fundamental recalibration of what constitutes a successful life. These men don't see a different world than coupled people. They see the same world through a different cost-benefit analysis. And once you understand their psychology, you realize this isn't about fear of commitment. It's about commitment to something else entirely, themselves. At the core of this mindset is what psychologists call avoidant attachment, the deep-seated belief that closeness equals danger. For men with this wiring, the very thing relationships promise, intimacy, emotional fusion, constant connection, triggers an alarm system in the brain. It's not that they don't want love. They do. But when someone gets too close, their nervous system interprets it as suffocation. This often stems from childhood, where caregivers were emotionally distant or punished vulnerability. As adults, these men develop a core principle. Relying on others is risky, and true safety lives in self-sufficiency. In modern dating, this creates impossible friction. The constant texting, the expectation to share every feeling, the need for reassurance, it all feels like surveillance, not love. His partner's desire for closeness isn't experienced as affection, but as control. This creates the painful push-pull dynamic. He pursues connection, gets close, then an internal alarm screams abort, and he sabotages everything to get his space back. For him, the problem isn't a specific person. It's the entire infrastructure of committed relationships. The solution becomes obvious. Stay free. Singlehood isn't loneliness. It's liberation from the constant threat of enmeshment. If that perspective hits home, subscribe. I break down more hidden layers of modern psychology just like this. Then there's the exhaustion of being expected to serve as an unpaid emotional therapist. There's a stereotype that men are emotionally illiterate. But for many freedom-valuing men, it's not about inability. It's about burnout. Modern relationships often come with an unwritten contract. The man must not only manage his own emotional state, but also serve as the primary support system for his partner. He's expected to be a rock-solid source of stability, while also being an expert emotional navigator for two people. Here's the catch. Many men were socialized to be tough, self-reliant, to hide vulnerability. Now the rules have changed, and they're expected to have emotional fluency they were never taught. It's like taking a final exam for a class you were never allowed to attend. The result is pure depletion. He listens, tries to help, but it never feels like enough. So what does a rational person do when a job drains them completely? They quit. Choosing freedom is choosing to conserve emotional resources. It's not rejection of women. It's rejection of the role of 24/7 emotional support system. Some men simply have a higher baseline need for solitude. In our hypersocial world, wanting to be alone is pathologized as depression or antisocial behavior. But for many men, solitude isn't an absence. It's a fulfilling presence of peace. These aren't always shy introverts. Many are perfectly social with good friends, but their default state of happiness exists when they're by themselves. Psychologically, this is about energy management. High-contact relationships with shared schedules and social obligations drain them like a phone battery stuck at 20%. A relationship for these men feels like constant stimulation they never asked for. They might love their partner, but constantly crave the mental space the relationship naturally eliminates. The structure of living with someone is fundamentally at odds with their need for quiet. They feel guilty for needing so much alone time. Their partner feels neglected. It's a no-win situation. The logical solution: honor their nature. By choosing freedom, they eliminate this core conflict. They can socialize on their terms, then retreat into the solitude that recharges them without guilt or explanation. For them, a quiet home isn't empty, it's a sanctuary. If you've ever felt this balance between solitude and connection, drop a comment. I'd love to know how you see it. Then there's the personality factor, low agreeableness. Men with this trait from the Big Five model aren't bad people, but they're wired for competition, directness, and skepticism. They value logic over feelings and aren't naturally inclined to keep the peace or make everyone happy. These traits serve them well in business, sports, intellectual pursuits. But in modern relationships, they create constant friction. Because contemporary partnerships require high agreeableness, compromise, emotional validation, gentle communication. A man with low agreeableness finds this exhausting and inauthentic. He's wired to challenge ideas and speak directly, even when uncomfortable. He sees his partner's desire for softer communication as inefficient. She sees his directness as aggression. The relationship becomes a battlefield. He feels he must censor his natural personality. She feels unsupported. The solution: step off the battlefield entirely. By staying single, he doesn't have to contort his personality into a shape that doesn't fit. He can live with intellectual honesty without constantly upsetting someone. It's preservation of identity. If you're still watching, you're clearly someone who values insight. Consider subscribing for more deep dives like this one. There's also the brutal math of modern dating and the exhaustion of constant rejection. Men typically bear the burden of initiation, approaching, messaging, making the moves. Dating apps have turned this into psychological warfare. Every non-response, every ghosting, every polite no thanks is a small emotional hit. Over time, these accumulate, eroding self-esteem. He starts internalizing it. Not tall enough, not rich enough, not interesting enough. At some point, a rational person opts out. Choosing freedom becomes emotional risk management, protecting self-worth from the barrage of rejection. It's not giving up, it's preserving dignity. Past trauma also plays a role. A toxic relationship or devastating breakup can serve as permanent warning. Infidelity, manipulation, divorce, these experiences teach a painful lesson. Relationships are dangerous. He's witnessed the worst-case scenario. The memory outweighs potential happiness. His mantra: never again. He's not broken. He's learned risk assessment. Freedom becomes a fortress for his well-being. For many men, life isn't about finding a partner to feel complete. It's about building a purpose-driven life on their own terms. He's on a mission: building, mastering, creating. Relationships require compromise of time, money, and goals. For a mission-focused man, those compromises feel like obstacles. Freedom lets him invest 100% into his purpose. His life is the project, and he needs full creative control. Finally, there's the rejection of the old script. The traditional path, career, wife, kids, doesn't align with every man's truth. Many are redefining success. They're questioning if marriage and family are the only routes to fulfillment. Freedom lets them write their own story, without judgment, without deadlines. But freedom also carries shadow costs. The same independence that protects can isolate. Studies show that chronic solitude impacts both mind and body. Even when solitude is chosen, the human nervous system still craves connection. Freedom-valuing men face social judgment too, labeled incomplete or immature. Defending their choice becomes part of the emotional tax. And that's the paradox. Some men choose freedom because they value it deeply. Others choose it because the alternative feels impossible. Are they running towards something or running from something? Both can be true. Here's what's rarely discussed. Freedom and connection aren't opposites. The healthiest humans move between them effortlessly. What if the future isn't couple or solo, but something in between? Intimacy without ownership, connection without confinement, freedom without isolation. So what sustains a freedom-valuing mind long-term? Purpose, not absence of stress, presence of direction. Men who thrive in solitude aren't avoiding, they're building. Freedom without purpose drifts. Freedom with purpose flows. In the end, valuing freedom over love isn't about being right or wrong. It's about being honest. about wiring, needs, priorities, and the life you actually want versus the one you're told you should want. These men aren't damaged, they're data driven. They've prioritized peace over approval. So, to the men who value freedom, you're not incomplete. You're not afraid of love. You're protecting something sacred. While others build around partnership, you're building around purpose. And that is its own quiet revolution. If this spoke to you, share it. Someone out there needs to hear that choosing freedom doesn't make them broken, it makes them self aware. And if you want to keep exploring hidden psychology like this, hit subscribe. This is just the beginning.